This offseason already feels different. You can feel it in the air. There's movement coming. And not the quiet, low-key kind. I'm talking about decisions that could actually shift where this team is headed next year. And what's crazy is, two completely different situations just popped up that might be way more connected to the Niners' future than people realize. On one side, there's a move being floated that could turn a backup situation into serious draft capital. On the other, there's talk about bringing in some serious firepower to fix one of our biggest weaknesses from last season. One potential exit, one potential reunion, and both could say a lot about how aggressive this front office is about getting back to the top. If you're a real Niner fan, you already know, this isn't just off-season chatter. This is about whether we reload the right way and get back to the Super Bowl next year. So before we break this all down, do me a quick favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're a real one. 49ers Nation Report is still new, and I only want the faithful here. The ones who truly believe we're going back to the Super Bowl next season. So the buzz right now is around Mac Jones and a hypothetical trade scenario that honestly might be too interesting for the Niners to ignore. Now let's be clear, Jones is under contract with San Francisco for one more season. He already said he'd be happy to return in 2026. And Kyle Shanahan even said during his end-of-season press conference he'd be very surprised if Jones wasn't back next year. That doesn't sound like a guy they're actively shopping, right? But here's the thing. Teams that are desperate at quarterback always make calls. Always. And according to ESPN analyst Bill Barnwell, one team that could make sense is the Minnesota Vikings, especially after a disappointing season from first-year starter J.J. McCarthy. Barnwell laid out a hypothetical trade, and I want you to really hear this out. The Vikings would receive Mac Jones and a 2027 third-round pick. The 49ers would receive a 2026 second-round pick, a conditional 2027 fifth-round pick, and a conditional 2028 third-round pick. Now, at first glance, you're thinking, okay, that's solid. But the details are what make this really intriguing. According to Barnwell, the conditional 2027 pick depends on Jones's playing time. If he starts 4 games in 2026, Minnesota sends a fifth-round pick. If he starts 12 games, that jumps up to a third-rounder. And it doesn't stop there. If Jones re-signs with Minnesota after 2026 and starts at least 1 game in 2027, the 49ers get another third-round pick. So in the best-case scenario, if he becomes their long-term starter, San Francisco could end up with a second-round pick and 2 third-round picks for a quarterback who was here for 1 season backing up Brock Purdy. That's not nothing. Barnwell even compared it to how Sam Darnold ended up leaving the Seattle Seahawks after 1 season as a backup. If a team believes Jones can upgrade their quarterback room, they'll pay. Now here's where I get real about it. Jones made 8 starts for us this season and looked impressive in stretches. He proved he can operate Shanahan's system. He's smart, he's accurate, he's a stabilizing presence behind Purdy, and that matters. But let's be honest. If you can flip a backup quarterback into a second-round pick, that's serious value. This roster has needs. We all saw it. Offensive line depth, defensive line reinforcements, maybe wide receiver help. A second-round pick gives you flexibility. It gives you cost-controlled talent in a window where contracts are only getting more expensive. And if the Vikings, or any quarterback-needy team, actually match that kind of offer, the front office at least has to listen. It doesn't mean you want Jones gone. It means you have to think long-term. Because if he's just backing up Purdy again next year, you're essentially sitting on an asset that could help you reload elsewhere. Now, I'll say this. I trust Shanahan when he says he'd be surprised if Jones isn't back. But I also trust John Lynch to pick up the phone if someone dangles a second rounder. And if this front office believes Purdy is the guy, which we all know they do, then maximizing value around him becomes the priority. So the real question becomes, are we better off keeping the insurance policy or turning it into ammunition? And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because if the Niners do free up assets, and if they're serious about fixing what hurt us last season, there's another move being predicted that could completely change the energy of this defense. And it involves a name that would make this fan base lose its mind. Let's talk about this second situation, because this one right here, this one feels personal. We all watched what happened to our defense last season, and I don't care how you spin it, the pass rush was not the same. With Nick Bosa missing a big chunk of the year with that torn ACL, we averaged the lowest sacks per game in the entire NFL, the entire league. That's not Niners football. That's not who we are. Yeah, the front office tried to get younger. They drafted Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, and C.J. West in 2025. I like the youth movement, I really do. But rookies take time. And when you're in a Super Bowl window, development can't be your only plan. That's why this prediction from Fox Sports analyst Greg Auman caught my attention. He's projecting the 49ers to sign 2 edge rushers in free agency. 2. And one name he threw out there is Arnold Ebiketie from the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Ebiketie had 6 sacks in back-to-back seasons before dropping to just 2 this past year. On the surface, that doesn't scream impact signing. But dig deeper, he had a 16.8% pass rush win rate according to PFF. That's legit. That tells you the disruption is still there, even if the sack numbers dipped. He's 27 years old, still in his prime. And there's a connection. He played under Raheem Morris, who's now tied into our defensive coaching structure. Sometimes familiarity matters. Sometimes a fresh system unlocks something. Auman even projected a 1-year deal in the $6 to $8 million range. That's a prove-it contract. Low risk, high upside. I don't hate that at all. But then, he said something that made every Niner fan pause. A Bosa brothers reunion. Yeah, Joey Bosa. Last offseason, we tried to sign him. He ended up taking a 1-year, $12.6 million deal with Buffalo instead. And at 30 years old, he still produced 5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, which actually led the entire NFL, plus 54 pressures and a 15% pass rush win rate across 17 games. The health is always the question with him. That's real. But imagine lining him up across from his brother. Tell me that doesn't change the feel of this defense overnight. Tell me that doesn't give quarterbacks nightmares. And if we're being honest, this defensive line needs juice, especially if Yetur Gross-Matos isn't brought back. Interior help could still be on the table too, especially pairing a veteran with those young 2025 draft picks. But that's not all Auman touched on. He also predicted we could re-sign Jauan Jennings. Now this one's complicated. Jennings had 15 touchdown catches over the last 2 seasons. That's production. And with Brandon Ayuk likely on the way out after missing 2025 recovering from a major knee injury, there's opportunity there. But here's the issue. Jennings had 643 yards on 90 targets this season. That ranked 55th among NFL receivers in yards per target. And if he's looking for more than $20 million per year, that's where things get uncomfortable. We already had instability at wide receiver last season. No one topped 650 yards. Kendrick Bourne was our number 2 in yardage behind Jennings. Ricky Pearsall only played 9 games because of injuries. Demarcus Robinson didn't give us the impact we hoped for in free agency. It was a rough year at that position. So now the front office has choices. Do you pay Jennings big money and hope he ascends? Do you let him walk and look for a true deep threat? Do you double down on defensive line help and trust the offense to bounce back? That's why this offseason feels so pivotal. Because if we move draft capital around, if we create flexibility, if we make 1 or 2 aggressive signings on the edge, this roster could look very different. And depending on how these decisions play out, we're either setting ourselves up for a serious bounce-back run, or we're gambling on upside and hoping it hits. And when you connect this defensive urgency with the potential draft assets from that earlier situation, you start to see the bigger picture forming. Let me know when you're ready, because we need to tie all of this together and talk about what this actually says about where the Niners are headed. When you step back and look at both of these situations together, it's clear this isn't just random off-season noise. This is a crossroads moment. On one side, you've got a valuable backup quarterback who could potentially turn into a second-round pick and maybe even multiple mid-round selections if everything breaks right. That's future flexibility. That's cheap talent. That's ammunition to fix real weaknesses. On the other side, you've got a defense that flat-out lost its identity last season without consistent pressure. You've got predictions about adding edge rushers like Arnold Ebiketie on a prove-it deal. Maybe even pulling off something bold like bringing Joey Bosa in to line up with his brother. And then there's the wide receiver situation. Whether you re-sign Jawan Jennings at a potentially high price, or pivot and reshape the room entirely. Put it all together, and this is what it tells me. The 49ers know the window is still open, but it's not automatic anymore. We can't just run it back and expect different results. The pass rush has to improve. The receiver room has to stabilize. Depth has to get better. And every dollar, every draft pick, every roster spot matters now. If they flip a backup quarterback into a second-rounder, that signals aggression. If they invest in proven edge help, that signals urgency. If they make tough calls at wide receiver, that signals discipline. And honestly, I like that. Because this team doesn't need panic. It needs smart, calculated boldness. We've been close, painfully close. And sometimes the difference between falling short and holding a Lombardi is 1 or 2 decisive off-season moves. So yeah, this moment feels big, not dramatic, not chaotic, just important. All right, Niner faithful, what would you do? Would you trade the backup for the picks? Would you go all in on defensive line help? Are you paying Jennings if the price crosses $20 million per year? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear real football takes from real fans. And if you're rocking with this kind of honest Niners talk, make sure you hit like on the video. Subscribe to 49ers Nation Report. We're still building this thing from the ground up, but only subscribe if you're a real one. Only if you truly believe this team is going back to the Super Bowl next season. Because if they make the right moves right now, we might be a lot closer than people think.